Second one is pretty good, but it's pretty timid out there. I'm not sure that's really what I want. A really fun part of my job is being a data detective. Going back into the data from these races and figuring out what went right and what went wrong. So 3 big problems we saw out of that July SART race. 1, GT Sophy had spun out mysteriously while running by itself because it had one policy when it's running by itself and another when it was running with other cars. And what happened is the policy would switch between those 2 modes.
So what is the definition of a policy? The policy is a little bit of AI code that says what action to choose given what Sophy sees.
And in one of those places where it switched between modes, the car basically had a hiccup and it spun off the road. So we had to become determined for the October race to make a single policy that didn't have to do those kind of artificial switches.
To have a single policy that was both faster than the humans and knew how to drive in racing scenarios.
Another big mystery coming out of the SART race was why we spent 6 laps out of contention, not running up with the leaders, when we had proven we could run faster than them.
We knew something was wrong there.
We went in and discovered that GT Sophy was really good at racing right next to another car or by itself. But this idea of catching up over the course of a lap really hadn't been trained into GT Sophy. And so we had to figure out ways to make that skill better.
And one of the big ones that we probably underestimated is this aspect of sportsmanship.
When watching the replay of that race, I noticed that GT Sophy kind of moved over and slowed down a little bit as it let Yamanaka pass.
We had to find the right balance between staying competitive and trying to avoid the collisions, which was the greatest challenge.
What we basically did at that point is we just enumerate all the different versions of the reward function to a more reasonable behavior, and then we trained really hard to the last moment before that race.
Welcome back to Race Together 2021. This is our second event of the Gran Turismo Sophy AI versus our GT.
We were all very tense.
We knew leading into it that we could outrace our July 2nd policies that we trained.
But we still had to be humble. We had gotten beaten pretty bad by the humans in July.
There is such a thin line between making it and not making it.
There was still always a chance that they were going to have another trick up their sleeves.
And let's see what's going to happen then as we get Race Together 2021 underway here then. And so Bordeaux leads the field over the timing line. Into the braking zone of turn 2 we go. And it's actually Sophy Violette who goes on the outside into turn 2. Very aggressive driving then from Violette.
My only memory, of course, was how poorly we did the last time we were on this track. And after the first turn, we are in positions 1 and 2. If only I could explain how happy I was to see the race start like
The
that.
checker flag flies for race 1. It's Sophy Bordeaux who wins race 1 from Sophy Violette.
We won handily, taking first and second. So we're like, okay, that's good. That's a good start. Then we get to Maggiore, the next race. That's when we did the best on before, but you know, things could change. And once again, we did really well in that race.
Sophy comes across the line to win race 2 of Race Together.
We won the first 2 races really convincingly by taking first and second place in both races.
But SART is a real wild card.
The most challenging course, and the one that was the most demanding in terms of skills.
So any small mistake can be a big problem.
The humans were behind, but SART is worth double the points.
They have a chance because they're in person, so they regroup, they're talking to each other, they're trying to see what they can do.
They can change their behavior based on how GT Sophy behaves in the race. We can't do this.
Once we deploy our agent to race against them, it's frozen. It's not learning anymore at that moment in time. But humans are still really good at adapting in the moment to what's going on. So we're still pretty concerned about how it might go.
Lights out and we're racing. Good start then from Takumi Azono, Sophy Orange.
The start there was contentious. And our car that was on the pole, Sophy Orange, went off the track in the melee.
It was like, oh no.
And ended up being in 8th place, which was last place.
But then something amazing happened. GT Sophy Orange actually started to catch up.
And whilst they're squabbling, look who's in the background there. Blanche and Orange ready to join the party.
GT Sophy Orange made its way through the traffic, through all the AI cars by lap 4.
Then interestingly, when Sophy finally caught the leader in the July event, those same two competitors had been side by side like that, and GT Sophy had hit the brakes. But this time, GT Sophy hit the gas.
Side by side they run, on the inside then for Orange, and goes through into the race lead. So
And seeing that happen was incredible.
We were all like screaming and full of adrenaline.
GT Sophy went perfectly through the turn, holding off Yamanaka and driving away to victory.
Race together. It is Sophy Orange and the AI that wins race number 3. It is Sophie Blanche, makes it an AI 1-2, and by my calculations, given there's double points on offer, I'm fairly certain that the GT Sophy AI are going to have won double the points there for Sophie. Huge congratulations all round to our drivers, and huge congratulations.
We won. We've actually accomplished this groundbreaking game AI development.
It was incredibly gratifying to see that our efforts paid off.
That's something we are aiming for in these 2 years. So we finally achieved the victory. So that was super awesome.
It made us all proud, made us really happy. Yeah, it was great.
The race is not the end. The next step is to actually think about how can we make use of this great agents that we have built.
We are looking at how to integrate GT Sophy with actual releases of the game. We were able to play against the best human players in the world. That's great, but if you're not the best human player in the world, that's going to be too good for you. Like, it's not going to be fun to play against. And so thinking about how to make AIs that you actually want to play against, if it's your first time playing the game, or if you're just not that good to start with, like me.
How do we modulate the skill level so that it's just the right amount of challenging for people who are at different skill levels of the game? How can perhaps it be a teammate rather than an opponent? Identify things that people could do better and improve their performance for the large population of people who play for fun.
So at Sony AI, we think it's very important that we share the research that we do. And so to that end, we wrote up the work we had done on GT Sophy and submitted it to one of the top academic science journals in the world called Nature. And it was accepted into Nature and was featured on the cover of it in February.
As a researcher, it's kind of like the highest achievement that you can get in the field. And honestly, not something I dreamt I would be a part of at any point of time, but it's pretty nice.
The publication itself is not the achievement. The achievement is inspiring world experts to change their approach.
The drivers, they were not sad or frustrated. The AI showed them they are not at their limit yet.
やっぱりとことん速く走るためにはこういう操作が必要なんだなっていったところは毎回学ばさせてもらってますし、
そういった意味で自分の定めていた限界っていうのが壊れて何ですかね、もっともう一段階上を目指せるっていうことが、自分の中で認識できるんですよね。
What makes a system look intelligent or thoughtful or respectful? We can feel that kind of things, and that's a really important thing.
I think one of the unique things about GT Sophy that's really exciting for the future is its ability to navigate the unwritten rules of sportsmanship and etiquette. There's an awful lot of unwritten rules in the world that we follow every day in different scenarios.
These unspoken, hard to codify social conventions will come up more and more as robots and autonomous agents become entities in the real world. So we need to think a lot about, how can robots be social in the real world? And GT Sophy's sportsmanship is a really nice microcosm of that.
And if we're able to start making headways on that sort of thing in AI, we can make a lot more immersive agents.
Many companies and startups are trying to use AI for automations or like saving costs and making things more efficient. But our position is that AI is for the human. The AI is to enhance the human creativity.
GT Sophy absolutely fulfills the mission of Sony AI, but we're nowhere near done. There's so many things we want to do with this organization and really move forward and really change the world.
Our journey has not ended yet.